Welcome to another edition of Beyond Sight. Your host, Hasan Clay. And of course, got a pretty impactful conversation I want to have today with you, our viewers, the audience, those of us who are trying to improve. Practice makes making improvement. We're trying to improve upon our life and the way we handle things, the way we communicate, and the way we want to be communicated to. Right. So, got a question for everybody. I want you to think about this. Have you ever had a conversation with someone about 30 minutes, a little bit more, and you walk away from that conversation feeling more misunderstood than you actually were when you started out that conversation? Well, I know I have on many occasions. It seemed like the more I talk, feel like the more I talk, the dumber I got. Right? I'm not gonna lie to you. That's what it felt like. The more I talked, the more confused I got. Right? Just in the person I was talking to, and that wasn't by accident. That was designed for me to walk away feeling that way, feeling that way. And in some instances, we call it gaslighting now. We give it all type of terms and stuff now. We call it gaslighting now, but for the most part, the idea wasn't for you to be able to get some understanding or be understood. Thing was, they really wasn't on your type of time, and they was just going to show you that they weren't on your type of time. And so, what takes place when all this is going on? You feel like you walk into a conversation with a coworker or your significant other or a relative or whoever that you are engaging in, and you want to let them know that this is where you are, this is where you might be, this is what you think is going on at the time. So, and this is what's happening between what you feel, the experience that you're having with them. You want to communicate that, right? And you think you're trying to do the right thing. You want to be open, right? You want to be vulnerable. You know what I mean? And so you set out to do this, but it seemed like the more you talk, the the deeper that rabbit hole get, and the more frustrating it becomes for you. And again, this is by design. And now, did someone purposely set out to say, I'm just going to take this person down a rabbit hole? Uh, Not exactly, right? But there was a potential not wanting to give in or acquiesce to whatever it is that you were talking about, to a point where you get all in this conversation. Been in this conversation for a lengthy time. Then they say, they start, well, okay, whatever you say, right? Which is really insulting, right? I done went through all this for you now to come back and say, well, okay. They really don't have the okay is really not okay. But they're saying this now, feeling like, okay, at this point now, since I'm tired of this conversation, I'm going to shut you up by saying, okay, right? Not that they're trying to get an understanding where you're coming from, or not they're trying to really just relate to you or anything in nature there. But at this point, they've actually got bored with the conversation, right? Or they just got tired of the conversation. So, but up until that time, you're going through this back and forth. You're on this cycle, this you just keep going around the circles, going around the circles, going around the circles. And what three things is taking place for you, and three things that you have to learn how to stop doing, right? I love coming in threes, right? You know what I mean? But three things that you have to learn how to do, and what not to do, and what to do, right? One, you got to get to a point that get out of the trap of all this over explaining. Hey, that's a trap. You know, I remember when I was younger as a kid, right? They used to have these cartoons, and they got this big old bear trap. What they call bear trap. When they got things got some big old jaws and the teeth just like this, and in the middle of it, and you step in the middle, just it'll lock down on you, right? And in some places, at some point, they actually really made them things illegal, right? Well, you should think of it as this situation here, this over explaining, as that bear trap, right? That when you step in it, it's gonna lock you in, right? And next thing you know, you stuck there. You can't do anything. I mean, sometimes that thing gets you to break your leg. That thing is so powerful, and that's what's doing to you when you get into this over explaining trap. And what that means is you'll find five or six different ways to say the very same thing that you just said. Right. And then you're trying to simplify it. You're trying to make it simpler because he said something. Well, you're not really understanding what I'm saying. Well, let me say it this way. And maybe you're not getting where I'm coming from. Well, let me say it this way. And then they'll feed you something else. And then next thing you know, you get into the cycle again. And you start talking all over again and trying to explain yourself a little bit more. And then in that process, this is also what takes place. This thing is the DEAR acronym, right? Defend, over explain, excuse, and react. And this was going to happen to you, right? Because when they get you on that cycle and they get you on that bike, they got you pedaling, they got you running, they got you running. And then they see, they're going to flip it on you. Tell you, never cease to fail that this is going to take place. Going to flip it on you, right? Then you're going to start defending the very thing that you actually talking about. You're going to start defending it. Right. Then you're going to start over explaining. You get this point, then they try to act like they don't know what you're talking about. Or then they try to say something else that you're really not saying. They know you're not saying this, but then they're just going to take it this way. And you're not saying, then you're going to try to explain it again. You're going to explain it a different way. Then you're going to start trying to explain it like you're talking to a 5-year-old, or then they say, it's they're going to make you feel like you're insulting their intelligence, how you talking to them. But really, they are insulting yours, to be honest with you. You don't get it, right? They're really playing in your face, but you don't get it, right? But you're going to keep on. You're going to explain. You're going to explain. You're going to explain. Really, stop all that. Stop all that. You don't have to go through this whole sarcastic, statements of, I said what I said and all this old type of stuff there. Because at that point, you're also feeding into what it is that they're talking about. You're feeding into it. And so when you are then trying to look at what it is that you are talking about with them, the main thing that you have to stop doing is just feeding into that rabbit hole of trying to over explain. Second, it's going to be, well, sometimes you just give entirely too many excuses. Sometimes we look at the idea of grace, right? We look at the idea of grace, but sometimes you give entirely too much grace. You make excuses where there shouldn't be any excuses, right? And they know that you're going to do it because this has been your MO. They got you paid, because you got to understand, when you start dealing with people who have high conflict personalities, it's not so much the behavior that they're really, and I want y'all to take this how I'm saying it correctly. They identify patterns. You have to learn how to identify patterns, because you don't get it. You're the only one in the room that hasn't read the memo. Everybody else understands the memo. You don't understand the memo. And so you get exhausted, you get argumentative, you start getting played out of pocket, right? Because you give out these excuses. You're trying to do this. You're over explaining. You're giving out these excuses. They got you on the bicycle. You defending. You're doing this, and it's just entirely too much. You're doing too much. You're doing a lot. Just try to get your point across, right? And then thirdly, it's like quit using a lot of words. Quit. You get them too verbal, too verbose. You just talk too much, right? Minimize what you're saying. Try to be as concise and precise as you possibly can, and stay on point. Just stay right there. Don't go over here and go in there. And then at some point, you have to learn how to stop it. You have to, well, this seems like it's not going nowhere. And maybe this is what it is that you are wanting from me. But here's what I'm trying to say to you, because this is the thing that people don't understand in having a conversation. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end to all communication, right? It's the issue that I'm seeing, that I'm presenting, right, to you, right? What this issue looks like for me in real time, and the outcome that I'm looking for because of this issue, right? We don't get to the outcomes. We go through this thing of saying, this is my issue. Then we start talking about an event for the issue to give examples of what this issue looks like and where we're coming from, and how this did and what it did for me. And you get caught up in your feelings and talking too much about your feelings and things of nature there. And that's where they get to play with you at. And how many times have we said something to somebody, I didn't do that to you. That ain't what I meant. That's not what I said. And then we go back and forth. Yes, you did. No, I did. Yes, you did. No, I did. Yes, you did. See, you said it right here. Then you said it right here. Then you said it right here. Then you want to give all these examples. And you're just talking too much. Just say what it is, the experience that you're having, right? The issue. This is when it has appeared. I'm not saying this is the only time it has appeared this way, but this is an example of how I identified it, right? And maybe it may not have been your intentions, but I'm saying this is what took place. This is the impact of this situation. You have to learn how to use these words. This is the impact. And this is the outcome I want to see out of this. I want you to stop all that. Maybe you may not have been doing it, but I want you to be aware from here on out and stop that. All right? This is what we don't get to. We don't call people to the awareness. And so if they get you caught up on the loop, on this negative loop, on this negative feedback loop, then this is what's going to happen to you. I guarantee you, this is where it takes place, and it becomes a thing to where you give up. Now, I don't know how many times I've been in a session and dealing with clients and the conversations that clients are having back and forth. And sometimes I let them just talk for a minute, to let them express themselves. And I just want to see where it really is going to go. And, sometimes they argue the way they argue in front of you. And sometimes they try to be on their best behavior because you're there. They don't want to be seen as, somebody crazy. And so they're not using, but the attitude of which they work in shows up. Maybe not the verbiage that they use, because sometimes they're not using a lot of curse words or things in nature there where they might be cursing at each other and saying all type of profanity at each other and whatnot. They're not going to do that in front of me. Not all the time. Sometimes they do. Not all the time. But you can see the patterns in which they have these conversations. And you can see when there's a rabbit hole just opened up. And then you see another rabbit hole open up. And then it's like, it's not even opening up a new rabbit holes. It's I'm in this hole, and now I've decided to take this direction in this hole. Then now I decide to go this direction while I'm in this hole. And then I want to go this direction when I'm in this hole. Then I'm going to go down just a little bit deeper, and I'm going to take it down a little bit deeper, and I'm going to go down there, and you just following right along with them. Just following right along with them. And if you can pull up out of that rabbit hole, you not first you have to exercise awareness. I think I talk a lot about that because this is where we are failing to master ourselves. And people love using this word emotional intelligence and all this old type of stuff. But that's really just a mastering of self, right? And sometimes we want to identify as that person always with the problem, not really recognize where that problem lies within me, right? And this is how the whole high conflict personality traits show up in you. It ain't because you're trying to start the confusion, you're doing all this stuff, is that you don't know how to make sure you stay on top of you to not fall into that. So then you start exhibiting high conflict personalities, right? These traits. I want y'all to think about that for a second. Because we're good at pointing the fingers, right? But we're bad at taking self inventory, right? And so I know you can identify the person that, show up with looking like drama queens or drama kings, or looking like they got this avoidance mentality, or this avoidance traits, or they stonewall, or all this, or they just very aggressive, or things of nature. There we can identify the person, but then we can't identify it in ourselves, and or even worse, we just gloss over that trait within us, and or we say that person, we fall into the triggers. That person triggered me, right? I need you to understand, everybody who's listening to this, I need you to understand, when dealing with triggers, when you say my triggers are this, when dealing with triggers and that phrase itself, the operative word is not trigger, but it's my. The triggers belong to you. You have to manage yourself with this trigger, with this thing that has, you know, agitated you. Because basically that's what you're saying. Somebody just provoked me, agitated me, all this other type of stuff here. And no, it's not, it's still your responsibility. Even though somebody might be trying to push your buttons, it's still your responsibility to manage yourself when they're trying to push your buttons, even to the point to where you just have to remove yourself from them versus engaging in them in this particular way. Because once they got you in that, they got you. You're hooked. You know, all of that in which you were trying to do cease to be of relevance at that point. And I want everyone to understand something. The moment you are trying to have a conversation and the moment you blow up in that conversation, you cease to have relevance. Your relevance then become minimized. And that's going to be hard for a lot of us to really hear, because I'm not never irrelevant, right? You're not irrelevant, but your position becomes irrelevant because what you're getting ready to deal with is you blowing up, not the thing that you're having an issue with from the beginning. But now we're going to take all this time and going into why you blowing up, or why you defending, or why you doing this and why you doing that, versus the whole conversation in which you came to the table with in the first place. And this is how we can maintain the relevance in which we're looking for in engaging in a conversation when we're trying to present an issue to someone who we're presenting an issue with, right? I don't want us to walk away from this session today, this episode today, thinking that something is wrong with you. I want us to walk away from this episode thinking, how can I improve upon my communication skills? What practices can I put in play in order to improve upon my communication skills so I can be understood? And we have to remember, though, that sometimes, one of the points here, that sometimes that a person is not looking to understand you. I think this is one of the key points. I actually gave you a bonus. I'm going to give you this point right here, that a person really is not looking to understand you when they are having this type of engagement or interaction with you. They're not really looking to have an understanding of where it is you're coming from. You really are on their time. They're trying to make you be on their time. It's not about you. It's about me, what I got going on, right? It's not about you. How dare you have an issue with me? Well, let me show you why your issue is not relevant to me. Let me show you how your issue is going to be mute to me. They're not really trying to have an understanding about what it is that you are saying or where you're coming from. So I gave a bonus in this one here because I think it's important. If we don't learn how to not get caught up in the trap, this so-called communication trap, as far as trying to explain the explanation trap, if we're not then trying to convince somebody of what it is that we're saying is relevant, and if we're not then, not using precise and concise words to get across the most objective meaning, then, and we're not recognizing, being aware that they're not really they didn't walk into it trying to understand where you are coming from, then your engagement with this situation it will bear no fruit. And the main thing that you want to walk into in any conversation that you're going to have with anyone, and I give you this tip on how to do this, is to find out first. Ask this question first. I want to have a conversation with you, but I want to know, are you willing to listen what it is that I have to say? And will you give it some thought about what it is that I would like to present to you? Right? Some of us have to do that now because we've been doing other things wrong. So we might have to start taking that route. Can I have a conversation, and are you willing to listen to what it is I have to say? Right? And if they say yes, because more than likely they are going to say yes, then you can remind them that as you continue to have this conversation. Sometimes you have to give them reminders too, when they start coming into this debate and what's the other thing? The other word we used to use, they want to debate your issue, or they want to rebuttal. That's the one they want to always use. They want to have a rebuttal. Everybody needs a rebuttal, right? And it's not about having a rebuttal. We can have a conversation, but it's not about a rebuttal. Because if you then looking at rebuttal, if they are looking to have any type of rebuttal with you, they are not looking to try to understand nothing you are saying. Their whole objective is to discount and discredit whatever it is that you are saying. That's what a rebuttal looks like. It looks like discounting and discrediting. And if you are bumping heads with that, know that anything that you're going to say from that point on will cease to have any relevance for them. It started out without it, it's going to end without it. And the only way that you can find out if this is where it is, if you start out this conversation by asking, hey, I have a concern, but I need you to be able to listen. Right? And then if you don't understand what it is that I'm asking before you start trying to, say what you didn't do, what are your intentions, and all this type of stuff here, get an understanding of what it is that I am actually trying to say. Maybe tell me what it is that you understand that I'm saying. Right? So I can be fully aware that you actually are understanding what it is that I'm saying. right? And so maybe in some circles they call that active listening, right? But I'm not trying to give it labels, just trying to give you the action on how this thing can take place. If you are then, if you ask the question, then after they finish and say, please let me finish before you say anything. Let me finish with everything I have to say. I'm trying to make sure it's not long. I don't want to be long-winded. And you put all your little lightweight disclaimers you possibly can put in there to kind of cut off any sections that they can run to at that point. You let them know what the issue is. Then you ask, even in that. So that making any sense? What I'm saying? You ask that question there. I'm clear about. I'm always saying that in a session. I'm talking to a client. That makes sense. What I'm saying. So I say, yeah. So tell me how that makes sense. Right. I'm not trying to belittle them or anything. I just want to make sure that I understand, that they understand, because we can have a conversation about this. So I need to know what you understand at this point. Right. And so then if they then are saying something, because they're going to tell me how they're interpreting, they're going to tell me what they're interpreting. They might say my words verbatim. And or if they do say my words verbatim, I mean, so what did that mean when I said that though? Right. And then they can say what that meant. And if they got the wrong idea about what it is they're saying, because sometimes they taking it personal, when you're in this situations here, sometimes people are on the defense, they got their guard up because they don't know where the swing gonna come from. And so they're just ready to block anything that's coming. Right. But you're not trying to have a confrontation. You're trying to have a discussion so you can solve an issue. Right. So then if they are then saying, hey, this is what I understood in that, then okay, no, that wasn't really what I was trying to say. Okay, I got it. Now you probably can explain it a different way, because at that point you got evidence that they didn't quite understand the way you were trying to say it. Right. Then you can come with something, but just trying to because y'all have this rebuttal session, you go, well, let me put it this way. Well, let me put it this way. And you go through all that, they know that they're not really trying to hear what you're trying to say. Right. So I just want to give us something to kind of work with from this week here. Um, it's about getting better, y'all. It's about improving. Right? We all can stand improvement. There's nobody out here is perfect. And I tell a lot of my clients this here. I'm not looking for perfection. I said, well, none of us is perfect. It's not about being perfect. It's about improving. We all can improve. We all may not be perfect, but we all can improve. Right. And so that whole excuse that, yeah, we ain't perfect, no relationship is perfect, or no situation is perfect. No, nothing is perfect. Only God is perfect. But he gives us the ability to improve. Even with our relationship with him, he gives us the ability to improve. And that's what I'm trying to present to us here who are listening, who is viewing this podcast. I'm trying to make sure that we have the opportunity to improve. We have the tools that we need that's necessary for us to improve. Right? So I appreciate everybody coming, checking us out. By all means, please share. Please subscribe. Tell a friend about this podcast. Beyond Sight, we're trying to do some things. We're going a little bit deeper. We're going a little beyond the tip of our nose, right? And understanding and trying to do better in what it is and how we are engaging with each other. It's about peace, y'all. It's too much going on in the world for us not to kind of get to some type of peace, right? Just entirely too much going on in the world for us not to be able to get to some type of peace. And this is the whole objective of what I'm looking at here. How do we get to peace? And how do we maintain the peace? Not only just get there, but how do we maintain it? What are some of the tools and the skills that we need in order to get there and stay there, right? And then improve on even the idea of peace, right? how can I give you the best experience from me that I possibly can give you? And how can I get the best experience from you that I can possibly have? Right? This is what this time is. So July 18th is coming around. It's coming around pretty quick. We're a little bit less than a month now from the marriage boot camp here in Atlanta, Georgia. Um, Please, if you're looking to, you can inbox me on all my platforms. Tap if you want to, or go to Rauda Islamic Center, Delaware. You can kind of tap into it there. For those of us who are Muslim, or may who be non-Muslim, who are non-Muslim, this actually event is also open to you, because marriage is marriage at the end of the day. This is invited. You're invited as well. You can come because all of us need tools. I have a client base that's a mix of Muslim and non-Muslim. We here to help marriages get better, right? And we just give you an offering up of what it is that we have, right? But at the end of the day, it's on you. You decide you want to come. But if you're non-Muslim, of course, please, you're invited to show up, come out. Again, it's if you're not familiar with, I know on some of my social media page, the flyer has been put out. Of course, the flyer will be continued to be shown, being shown. By all means, please tap into it. Link on register. We got a few coming out. Register. We also having a day at Six Flags. The day following on Sunday, we have a day out at Six Flags. By all means, you can register for that as well. I think we get a better rate on the tickets for that event as well. So you'll come to Six Flags on the day afterwards. And by all means, please show up. And of course, you can connect with me on all my social media platforms by typing in the Hasan Clay Experience. That's on TikTok and Instagram. Want to start trying to boost that Instagram page up too. So, you'll start tapping in and coming in my Instagram page as well, and checking me out. Of course, my YouTube page is Hasan Clay Experience. By all means, please share that, subscribe to the page. It's coming up, y'all. I'm getting each week. It seems like I'm getting a couple more people showing up and tapping into it. So by all means, please do that. And of course, on Facebook and LinkedIn, you can find me as Hasan Clay on there. 1S Hasan Clay. Please tap into it. Let's check it out. Check me out, y'all. I got some things on my website, hasanclay.net. Of course, I have my things on the website, and I have my books that you can tap into. I got a new release that's out now called The Mum Effect: The Silence of Men and How to Break It. Of course, a book, Taming the Storm: Understanding and Overcoming High Conflict Personalities for a Peaceful Life. That's still for sale. And by all means, check me out. And we air every Monday. We come on every Monday at 7 p.m. That's every Monday on YouTube at 7 p.m. Please set your notifications so you can get it. And by all means, we're going to see everybody next week. Bring a friend, tell a friend. We're going to see everybody here next week. But with that, y'all have a great week. Have a wonderful weekend. Y'all be safe throughout this whole entire time. Stay prayed up. I'm going to see you back here again next Monday at 7 p.m. Y'all take care.